Welcome to the Nebraskabilities podcast. I am Zach, joined by my co-hosts once again, Andy and Nate, and we're here to talk about a very rough football game, and also the beginning of a rough football season, it would appear. The Nebraska Cornhuskers, your Nebraska Cornhuskers, lose to Coloado 36-14 in what we could call, I think, going down in a ball of flames, pretty much. It was not a pretty game. We kind of assumed it'd be ugly, but we were hoping it'd be ugly on our favor and win. But I think the overarching tale of the game is kind of what we determined last week too, which is, our defense did what they needed to do. Our special teams showed up, and our offense gift wrapped the game for them and gave it to them literally by turning the ball over 4 times. So before we even started recording, we found some really cool, fun stats that showed that Nebraska is leading. Is it just sacks? We're just leading in the sack department.
Yeah, team sacks essentially.
Yeah, leading in team sacks on defense. So Nebraska is tied for the lead, but that is also tied for, I don't know if it's dead last, but we're right near the bottom of turnovers lost. So
tied for dead last.
It is tied for dead last. Okay. Well, there you go. So clearly, like most people that watch any form of football know, you can't win a football game if you don't win the turnover margin. Now, at least not very easily. So the Nebraska football game was absolutely a sign of that. And I think the overarching question now remains, who's our quarterback, because it seems that Sims is not it, which we'll delve deeper into. But my quick thoughts from the game are, it's way early, but let's just fire this whole game into the sun because that was terrible. That was not an ideal game to watch or listen to. In my case, I had to listen to it on the radio, going old school. And yeah, no, not a fan, but I will pass it to you guys, and I'll go with Andy first. I don't know what's your initial thoughts.
Well, just everything. The game started as I wanted it to start. I thought that gave Nebraska the best chance to kind of edge out this game and win the game is control the ball, kill the clock, run the ball, just keep out Colorado's offense off the field, because we know what they did against TCU. With the same fears, they're going to come out and kind of do that against us. And, I think end of first quarter 0-0, I was like, that's really a big win for Nebraska going in with all just the pregame hype, big noon kickoff, everybody being there for Dion and everything. And, to end the first quarter tied 0-0, I was like, yep, that's a win for Nebraska. They're doing what they need to do right now. It's just get the game back in their favor, their tempo. And then you get to about the 5-minute mark of the second quarter, and what was a 3-0 game turned into a 13-0 game at halftime in a span of 5 minutes. And, we're going to talk about it, like Zach said, with Jeff Sims is, at this rate, he's averaging a turnover a quarter. And like you said, Zach, very not ideal to winning football games in the slightest. So it kind of sucked all the momentum out of Nebraska's sail at that point, because you're driving, you have a chance to go put up points before half, kill a lot of the clock, and Sims, I don't remember what his second turnover was. I don't know if that was off the muff snap or interception, but then the very next play, Colorado finally hits that big hitter that they haven't all half is, first play, just a nice breaking post, finds the zone in our defense and scores the touchdown. It's 10-0 at that point. And you're like, okay, well, we can come down and just somehow try to get some points right before half, even if it's a field goal like that. Sad. It didn't happen either. So it kind of sucked all the momentum out of just anything that, his second fumble or turnover was the interception that led to the Colorado touchdown immediately after. But it's baffling that I think, in my opinion, this is the first check mark that we have against Rule saying like this is something that he did wrong in his tenure, I would say at least, is they went all in on Jeff Sims. You put all your eggs in the basket for Jeff Sims, and then so far what was overlooked in the offseason was his turnovers at Georgia Tech are now coming to light again with our offense. And I think that's my first check mark against Rule is now, okay, you handpick this guy. We're not seeing any some progress so far, again, game 2. But there's a real fear that he might not get it figured out. There's a real fear that Rule might not be able to fix him. Sims might be just that type of player, that type of guy that is just like that too. Again, it's only game 2, but it's just the reality of setting in as you watched him operate that offense. And besides the QB draw that he broke open for a touchdown, I didn't really see a whole lot of other good positives out of Jeff Sims on Saturday. And I know a lot of this has also come back to Satterfield, as a lot of people weren't high on him in the offseason that higher. It's kind of coming to light, true, that, maybe this isn't our good offensive coordinator going forward for this team either. Again, it's tough to say with 2 sample size games, but if the trend keeps going that the way it is right now, then yes, Rule is going to have to make some tough decisions on who he wants a quarterback going forward, who he wants as offensive coordinator going forward, if it is what it is going to be. And, we might not even see Jeff Sims on Saturday if he's healthy. And I think a lot of the fan base, wants that too, is, bench him regardless. But I also, in my mindset, I want to see him benched, not because he's hurt, because you're trying to prove something to your team and your fan bases. We're not going to put up with the turnovers, and we're not going to let this allow this to affect our team. So I don't want Sims to be benched because he's injured, but at the same time, I want Rule to kind of make that point to the team and just go with who you think the better quarterback is to win the game. And I think it was very telling that the entire second half, after Sims kind of got hurt, you saw the backups come in, but there has to be a substantial drop off between QB1 and QB2 for Rule not to go out at halftime and say, okay, Harbaugh, you're in, or Purdy, you're in, and to still stick with Sims, even though he kind of lost you the first 2 turnovers, and especially that first drive of the game. Nebraska's driving down the field, like they're going to come out and score a touchdown immediately and just kind of punch Colorado right in the mouth. And he fumbles a shotgun snap. And, again, we're criticizing this from the point of none of us have really played college football, really done, competitive quarterback snaps from that side or anything. But I feel like the first basic thing of being a quarterback is you handle the snap and then you go through your progressions. And he fumbled a shotgun snap twice. And that's something that has to be fixed. I also want to put out that I think all motion shotgun snaps should be burned and tossed out of the playbook for that sake, because that was a real big issue as well. But kind of to summarize the point of the game is Jeff Sims is not who we thought he was going to be at the start of the season. And it is going to be a very big problem if it does not get fixed or settled soon, because it will be a very long season at this rate if this is what we have to do. And he's only a junior, so there's a very real chance, he could be our quarterback for next year, or he might not be. But I mean, I guess that's obviously a discussion for how we see the season goes. But that's also another reality is you technically have Jeff Sims for another year. So if you don't start to figure this out now, Rule might have to either just stick with him because we have nobody else, or we have to change things up and hopefully an incoming recruit, or, Harbaugh might surprise us with everything. But yeah, Nate, we'll get to your thoughts on, just what we need to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely great opinions there. The Jeff Sims experience has been a rough one so far this season. Like you mentioned, he's just got about a turnover a quarter. Pretty unacceptable. I don't know where you go going forward, because like you said, there must be some sort of drop off between QB1 and QB2 for Matt Rule to continue to stick behind Sims. And I'm sure part of that is just more giving him a vote of confidence and trying to build him up
Right.
Trying not to be like, oh yeah, this guy's garbage. We're throwing him away. But I feel like there has to be at least some internal discussions, whether he's injured or not, to at least see what the QB2 looks like in our offense. Because, I mean, yeah, some of the turnovers weren't necessarily his fault, but a lot of them have just been really just mental errors, bad reads, like you said, not catching the snap before you go through your progressions, like just little things that shouldn't be an issue outside of maybe like your first day or two of practice starting with the team, you know. So that's going to be something to really look at going forward. Is, I mean, quarterback's leader of the team, at least leader of the offense. That's a big piece, and if he's not performing up to, you know, good, at least even average standards, it's like you said, it's going to be a long season. The defense can only do so much. They held their own in the first quarter, and I mean most of the second quarter until the turnovers really started to get to us. I can't say too much bad about the defense. I mean, yeah, they did break. That was very evident, but I think the whole team broke at some point in the middle of that game, just because of, again, the self-inflicted errors there. So,
Well, and that, yeah, saying that, Nate, I mean, you look at the second drive chart, or the second half game chart, is Colorado comes out, you stop them on downs, which was great. Nebraska comes out, gets the QB draw, touchdown. And then Colorado runs 10 plays for a touchdown. Nebraska goes 3 and out, punt. Colorado comes back, 8 plays, field goal. Nebraska 3 plays at a fumble. Colorado comes back out, touchdown. So it's like that whole sequence there. It's now suddenly 27-3, and your defense is back out there for 4 or 5 minutes of time in the second half already, and you're already behind the 8 ball with that. So, you know, it's your offense not being able to move the ball to give your defense a break when you're going 3 plays every single time, 3 and out, and then like, oh, defense, sorry, got to go back out there again after you just played for 10, 11 plays and let Colorado score again. So you're right. It's just, yeah, the defense did break in the second half, but that's a lot of that is the offense just not being able to move the ball either.
Yep, 100% agreed. And I almost just wonder if, and I'm, again, part of it is probably just not having a competent quarterback right now, but it just seems like we don't really have a true identity on offense, because it seems like we're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, hoping, you know, maybe we can get the run game going, maybe we can get QB draw option. We haven't seen too many really downfield passes, which might just be due to the inability of our quarterbacks. It'd be nice to see them, you know, try and open the field and then go back to, you know, some running plays after that to just, I don't know, mix things up. I'm no offensive minded coach, but I'd say at least try to get something consistent, because we have the backs. I mean, yeah, Gabe Irvin went for 74, Ramir went for 66, Jeff Sims went for 67. So it's like our running game is there. We might as well try and do that and tailor our passing offense more towards, you know, maybe some play action to draw the defense, you know, in a bit to open up our guys. But that's a whole other discussion. Otherwise, yeah, our passing is just not good. Billy Kemp and Fedoni finally showed up a bit, but you're only as good as the guy that can get you the ball, and right now it looks like we can't really get the ball out. And I'm sure part of that, as I've mentioned before, is a little bit of our offensive line. It looks like they were starting to gel a little more, not letting the defense in within 2 seconds of the snap initially. But I did notice when we put Prochaska in, it seemed like things were flowing a little better as well. So it's hopefully as he's getting back to full strength, that will help things flow a little more smoothly. But yeah, I guess my just final thoughts on Colorado, Nebraska is it's going to be a rough season, but we're only 2 games in, and a lot can change if we're willing to make the changes. So I guess I'll leave it at that and pass it over to you guys.
Yeah. This is a time where I think now is very evident of the offense is you miss a guy like Trey Palmer, Samari Toure, like we'd mentioned before, DeMarne personnel, like you miss your downfield speed threat guys on offense that the defense has to be worried about that guy, which opens up your other receivers. Well, you look at our receiving core as a defense, you're like, who do we have to be scared of? Like, none of these guys are vertical speed threats. Like, we can be in front of them. We can play in front of them, and you're worried about your tight ends. Well, your tight ends might be big, but they're not running 40-yard verts getting open every play. So it's very evident right now is you miss that type of player on your offense to at least get the secondary on the opposing defense to kind of open up a little bit, be worried and be focused on that one guy so that it opens up the rest of your offense. But right now, there's nobody on that receiving core right now that can be that guy.
It'd be great to have someone like that, but even then, the thought I think is, do we have a quarterback that could even get him there? Like, yeah,
Right.
it would help to open it up, but do we even know if it's going to ever get there? Outside of once in a blue moon. But I mean, with that, I know we kind of already beat it over the head, but outside of the quarterback troubles that we're having, clearly, I figure we can just kind of go into the rest of the offense, which we've kind of already touched on here and there. But one thing that I did, so I went back and watched, just some highlights of the game because, as I mentioned, I listened to it. So listening to it and watching it are totally different things. But something that I did notice, and Nate kind of touched on this, is that I did notice, ironically, that our line seems to be getting a little bit better. I think they're taking steps each week, which is good. That goes along with the mantra of the 1% better each week. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're great. They definitely need to be able to protect, pass protect longer and, maybe open up some more running lanes. But I still say that slight progress is better than regression, obviously. So in this case, I'd say they did okay there. Granted, Coloado, I don't think was the toughest team up front either. It's not to say they were terrible by any means, but I don't think they were going to be the strongest threat, especially as we get closer to Big Ten play. But something I did like to see as I'm just looking at the stat sheet is that we did stick to pretty much what we considered to be the game plan and what I think a lot of people did, which was run the ball a bunch. And we ran the ball a lot. Obviously the turnovers killed us, but Jeff Sims only attempted 15 passes, and then Harburg, however you say his last name, I'm going to goof that up all year. I guarantee it. He tried 6 passes and Chuba tried once. So, I mean, 22 total passes as compared to 14 carries or 41. I mean, we did the offensive game plan that we needed to do. And by and large, if we would have actually been able to hold on to the ball, this could have been a different game. But coulda, shoulda, woulda, obviously. But I mean, beyond that, it's tough to find too many positives or any diamonds in the rough because it just that's where all the problems were, is the offense. We could sit here and be like, oh, this was good, that was good, and we did already kind of talk about it, that we finally saw some receivers open up and finally, take place and kind of, fill their role. But again, when you're throwing an interception and losing the ball twice on muffed snaps or, fumbling it via handoff or whatever, you can't expect to win a game that way. And so, I mean, outside of that, it's tough to really find too much positive, like I already said, because quite frankly, I still maintain that our offense lost us this game. And I don't think anybody's really going to have heartburn over that statement either.
Oh, no.
And yeah, obviously, the defense, I think the defense broke down because you can't have the defense on the field constantly and expect them to keep up that high level of play, because eventually they're going to get gassed, and that happens. So I know, like I said, I know we already kind of beat the nail into the board with the offense, but if you guys got anything else you want to add to it, positive, negative, otherwise, Otherwise, we can move on to defense.
I mean, I guess like Nate had mentioned, I mean, getting Fedoni finally involved, trying to see any sort of glimpse of him being involved is a step in the right direction. We said, especially with we had Austin Allen. I mean, we underutilized him years ago, and Fedoni, Borkature, they are good targets. They are good guys. They're good blocking threats. They're good receiving threats. We don't have anything designed to get them the ball, which we should more, especially if your receivers are not as talented as we thought they were going to be. So something that I think is a positive step in the right direction is we did see Fedoni start to get a little bit more involved this game, which is one good because he's clearly showing that he's healthy at least, and not our glass cannon that we're so worried about yet. But outside of that, I mean,
there was a really nice block he had on Travis Hunter. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was
pushed him around.
Now, granted, of course, all the responses when you see that on Twitter are, "Oh, okay, 36-14." Like, yeah, we get it, but like,
Right.
We're Nebraska fans. Let us have a little bit of hope, just somewhere.
There's nothing else to celebrate on that offense,
please.
But yeah, that nothing like we had sort of talked about. I wanted them to do what they were going to do, was run the ball and kind of limit Colorado's possession, which, yes, in theory works when you don't turn the ball over 4 times. And it's just a lot of those drives. I mean, you kill like that first offensive drive. I still go back to is you're already in field goal range. You're at their own 31, and obviously you're thinking touchdown, but you fumble the snap, and then you could just, if that happens Saturday, you're probably going to start to hear murmurs in the stadium, maybe boo birds, all of that. It's not going to be a pretty look if that happens Saturday, especially if Sims is playing and does it too. But yeah, Nate, if you have anything else.
I guess I'll just throw in the general talking point that's kind of been thrown around throughout some of the media that I've seen. I'm sure you guys have seen too, but like just the accountability aspect and the fact that we didn't see Anthony Grant at all after one fumble against Minnesota, but Jeff Sims was still in the game after his deep dive into
and that goes immediately back into what is that drop off between QB1 and QB2.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be something bad.
It has to be significant enough for Rule not to take him out. And I get the whole aspect of you keep him in to like not ruin his psyche or anything, but like if he's going to keep doing the turnover game, I mean, something has to change quick.
I just hope that if it is to where like Sims is not good to go on Thursday, Jiminy Christmas, not good to go on Saturday.
No, your team plays on Thursday.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting everything confused now. But yeah, if Sims can't play on Saturday, then I hope, this sounds so weird to say out loud, but I hope then that we at least have the chance to find out why Sims didn't get pulled. Because I agree with you, Nate. Like Anthony Grant fumbles once at arguably one of the most important times for us to go and win that game.
Yeah.
But he still did it. And then the accountability aspect where Rule has come in and said, I'm holding guys accountable. If you do this, you're not going to play. Okay. So, but why is that a different standard for these guys? And again, like Andy said, it has to be a steep drop-off case. And again, and also, I understand if he's your starting quarterback, which goes also to like the comments he said afterwards is like Jeff Sims is our quarterback. There was no thought outside of putting the second string quarterback in. I see a lot of people getting upset about that comment. And I'm like, I get it. I do. As a fan, you want to see better progress than what Jeff Sims was showing. But on the other side of that, it's like, you don't want to lose your quarterback 2 games in either. It damned if you do, damned if you don't. Really.
I know. Just
anyway, back to your point, Nate. Sorry.
Take
it over.
Appreciate the discussion. It's definitely tough, and I go back and forth on how I feel about it too. Because, like you said, you don't want to completely rattle your quarterback and kind of throw the guy that bought into your offense just to the wayside 2 games in, but it's a lot of turnovers, man. A lot of, and like I said, just a lot of mental mistake turnovers that were just forced or I don't know.
That
Probably shouldn't have
interception
even
was
happened.
that
anyway.
interception he should have threw out of bounds. That was
Yeah.
100%. He was forcing that ball, and I was like, the DB is right there.
Yeah.
Like you punt that ball away because obviously it was like the same thing with Minnesota last week. Is we dropped the interception in the end zone, and then the next play Minnesota scores, win the game. So it's like, in that moment, you're like, oh, God, an interception is probably going to hurt us. And it literally did because the very next play, Colorado scores. So it's like I said last week, it's literally one play can make a whole lot of a difference in a game. And that whole sequence did.
Yeah. And it's tough to watch because in my mind, that's an easy fixable mistake because it's a stupid mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know, making bad reads, not catching the snap. Like those should be in theory very easy and fixable things. 2 games in though, I have questions.
Mm-hmm.
These shouldn't even
Because
be
you would-
issues at this point.
No.
Like we shouldn't be having those. I mean, one every now and then, fine, but you shouldn't
Mhm.
be having snap issues as often as we're having them.
Yeah, and I get it. Like first game against Minnesota, if there's jitters, whatever, new team, new scheme, everything. Sure, things will happen, but I feel like you got to hammer that in practice and make sure that the stupid stuff isn't getting through the cracks for your next game. And I mean, granted, it was against a solid Colorado team. I'll give them that, but it was a lot of self-inflicted pain that really brought us to the conclusion there on offense. So I guess that's where I'll leave things there. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Zach for our golden child defensive discussion.
Well, yeah. So the defense is clearly going to be our. I think we've found out after 2 games that the defense is going to have to be the side of the ball that does the work. It's very obvious at this point that they are the team, like the bell cow that we're going to hang our season on unless the offense takes a wide step forward, or just the defense has shown up for 2 games, and point blank, they've done well. I know we already kind of touched on it, and yeah, of course they got gassed because again the offense kept turning the ball over. So at a certain point, it's like you can only expect so much, because at the end of the day, your offense also needs to be able to uphold their end of the bargain in order for the defense to get a break and be able to play. And they did. I mean, what did we end with? 8 sacks on the day. I mean, and so I remember one of my key points for the game was just like what I had said, is where if you get pressure on Shadur Sanders, he makes mistakes, and we saw that at least in the first half. Of course, obviously at the end of the day, it didn't matter because he still ended up throwing for basically 400 yards. But again, I don't place that on the feet of the defense entirely. Like, yes, they still let some plays go, but I don't think anybody was complaining about the defense. They shouldn't be, outside of maybe a play or 2 here and there. But you could say that Colorado gave up quite a few plays too, and we still couldn't capitalize. So, for me, I was impressed just by just the stat sheet. Like, again, we saw the defense swarming the ball. And then even getting, I think my favorite play that I even saw, because we got to see bits and pieces here and there while we were out on the golf course, was that we had Shadur Sanders like off. He was like 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage or something, maybe not that far, and they were putting pressure on him. It took him a while to tackle him, and he just ran it out of bounds. He could have thrown it, and it was like, there you go. Like, our defense did what they needed to do, and they put pressure on him, and they got him to make mistakes. And so, I mean, they did what they could do. I feel I feel bad that they have to put up with a 2. We recommend, or we considered this almost like the 2009 year where we had a great defense and then our offense was putrid. I think that's outside of probably one really key factor on the defense that we had in 2009, named Ndamukong Suh, that we don't have now. Maybe not exactly the same, but our defense has shown up. But our offense is just not getting it done. But I have nothing bad at all to say about the defense. I thought they played well. I thought they stuck to their game plan. I don't think they really gave up until it was obvious that, even if they kept getting stops, it was almost a guarantee that we weren't going to be able to do anything with it. And I know we talked about this beforehand before we started recording, but it's kind of clear, I think, that the defense is going to need to generate turnovers, which then also are generated into scores. Like, I think at this point, to me, the defense is going to have to be the team that scores the points, which is a heck of a lot harder than trying to rest on your offense to do it. But I mean, I could see them doing it. I think the concern for me, if we try to lean on that, is can we generate enough pressure to do that? I think we can generate enough pressure to get them to make mistakes and get stops, but getting turnovers and generating that into pick sixes and fumbles that's a whole step up. And I think we could get there, but I don't know if we've seen that a whole lot yet. But I'll pass it to you guys. Whatever you think on the defense.
I think the one bright spot that I liked was we heard that Cameron Lenhard was going to be one of those freshmen coming in to watch, and Saturday was kind of his coming out party. I mean, he had 2 big sacks, like big sacks in terms of him getting that playing time and proving that he can get those minutes as a freshman in a big time game. So that was very, very helpful to see, because I was also a little concerned coming in about the defensive line for the season too, is when you were only returning Ty Robinson and you had a couple transfers, guys that had never really played defensive line before kind of step up, and you're like, you can run a 3-3-5 all you want, but if you're not going to have at least some big guys up front trying to push and get some penetration on the offensive line, it's like, how many times are you going to get to the quarterback? And like you said, Zach, 8 times is, we really loved what we saw. Just and what stat we threw out earlier is we're tied first in the country for total sacks on defense right now. And very, very promising to see that. But second half did show that our secondary against a talented wide receiver core, which Colorado does have, we'll give them credit there, can get burned at times. There's especially that first half touchdown that we gave up. I mean, zone coverage, he was wide open. There was nobody within 10 yards of that catch. So it's something just to see as the season goes on, is how does our secondary still match up against more talented wide receivers? And I don't know how many, we can game plan more, but I don't know how many more talented wide receiver core we're going to see from teams coming up outside of Colorado, because we knew what they had and they proved it still. So outside of that, not much more I can say. Just like you touched on, Zach, they're going to have to get turnovers. You can get as many sacks, many stops as you want, but if we're not trying to even out that turnover margin that our offense puts up, we're not going to be in a lot of games, and we can't rely on the defense to win us games. That's just not how the modern college football game can't be played anymore. Is you're not going to be seeing these low scoring. And the Big Ten is perfect for that, because we love low scoring contests in the Big Ten. But at the same time, it's also, you got to be able to move the ball on offense, and your defense can only do so much. And you can't keep putting them back out there 3-4 series in a row after your offense goes 3 and out. It's just not feasible. And, Tony White right now is obviously doing the best that he can. He's for sure done a heck of a job that I think would all agree right now is he's probably the best coach on the staff right now in terms of who has outperformed what we expected them to do, for sure. There's nothing really else I have to say. Is love the sacks. I love the pressure. We got bit a few times on the pressure, sending an all-out blitz, and a lot of that is credit to Colorado realizing that and making Sanders is a heck of a quarterback too. So a lot of that is just, they recognize the blitz, but the better players made the play, and Colorado made those plays, especially some of those third down conversions. Because it's 3rd and 10, you're like, this is easy to get them off the field, and then Colorado burned us. So a lot of that is Colorado just being good too of what we didn't think. I certainly did not expect that, coming into the season, that Colorado would be this good, and nobody really else did either. So yeah, going forward, I would love to see the defense just kind of take a step up, and you got to force some of those turnovers, whether it's hacking at the ball every time they run, or being smart about trying to jump in passing lanes and get interceptions. But we're gonna have to create some turnovers and get any sort of momentum to our offense instead of sending it back out after the defense has played lights out, but then gives up points on another end of the drive. So you got to give your offense, and especially Jeff Sims, if we're going to keep rolling out Jeff Sims, you got to give him some momentum and some confidence that, all right, the rest of your team has your back and is giving you this momentum and confidence. Go out there and score, go take the game, and go win us the game. So that's I think is going to be the biggest key factor going forward for our watching the defenses. Can they make the stops? Can they make the turnovers when we need them to? How Minnesota's defense did against us is they made the turnovers and stops when they needed to. So can our defense step up and get to that point and just give any sort of boost to the offense right now, because it certainly needs it.
Yeah, but I think I pretty well agree with everything you guys have said. It's defense is definitely the best side of the ball. Honestly, conditioning might be the only thing that can really beat our defense at this point. Like, our offense putting our defense in bad positions has been really the most prominent game changer. I mean, there have been plays here and there where we've gotten beat, but I mean, overall, defense has performed well. Like you mentioned, Andy, Cameron Lenhart has been an absolute beast up front, which is nice to see. We need that with the 3-3-5 defense. It was nice to see Nick Henrich come back and have a solid game too. Looking like his old self. I think he had a couple sacks, and so it was good to see that he was back in the game. Hopefully, he can keep getting stronger, playing well. Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. It's really just our offense beating up our defense. Like I mentioned, they can't do it all, and you can scheme as much as you want, but if you're getting 3-and-out after 3-and-out on offense and just trotting out the defense, every minute and a half, 2 minutes, you can have as perfect of a scheme as you want. Guys are going to get tired. That's just how the game works. So hopefully it's something we can remedy. We'll see. I don't know if even just running the ball more efficiently, more effectively, keeping the offense just out on the field that much longer, run down some clock, trying to win the time possession game could maybe go a long ways in at least shifting some of that balance back towards our defensive favor. But yeah, otherwise, Jeff Sims had 1 tackle, so maybe there's a opening there.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we do know he can run, so I mean, he might have a spot in the secondary on the defense. Who knows?
I think the one last thing I want to touch on before we go to Northern Illinois is I really hope Buschini just had an off punting game, because he did not look great that entire game. A lot of those punts were not what we needed when we needed them to flip field position, and I'm really hoping it's just a one-off, because he was supposed to be the solid rock on the special teams that we knew for sure. And I'm just hoping it's a bad game, because that cannot keep happening going forward. And I certainly hope it's not a repeat of our nice 5-yard punt we had a couple years ago, because that was rough.
I do think at least it's a positive that we've come from the special teams losing us the game to just not helping us. Like, well, and we also had Tristan Alvano miss that field goal.
Which nice doink.
That one, it's upsetting, but at the same time, it's like freshman kicker, and that was how long? Like 47 yards or something like that.
40 or 50. Yeah, it's not
It
like
was-
he didn't have the leg for it. He certainly had the leg for it. Just
I mean,
it never curled back in, which was the unfortunate part. But he certainly had the distance for it.
and it seems like kicking just in football in general this year has been weird. Like it seems like a bunch of teams are just having issues with kicking. So maybe it's just one of those, you know, as the season goes on, he'll start nailing those.
Yeah.
I will say at least seeing that he was as close as he was made me feel a lot better about the fact that we have somebody that can kick it. Now he's just got to work on those little things. And again, I know nothing about kicking. It's just got to be those little things that you change here and there to get it to go through the uprights, which is the entire point of the field goal. But you know, yeah, I guess outside of that, special teams once again did okay. I mean, they didn't lose us the game. I suppose that's the positive. But with that, then I figure we can jump on over into Northern Illinois and just
What we want to see.
I mean, what we want to see is a win,
Right.
But man, I don't know. I think a lot of it comes down for me to now. I would like to point out, I think Nebraska has a good chance of winning this game. Well, we're not at predictions yet, but I still think Nebraska has a really good chance of pulling out the win, which they definitely need. It's nice that they finally get a home game. That is something else that I didn't consider up until just now is that we started off the season 2 away games. That doesn't happen very often. Not necessarily trying to make the excuse of, oh, you know, if we could have had a home opener, you know, who knows? But it is kind of odd, but it is what it is. And, you know, you play with the hand that you're dealt. But ironically enough, to me, almost very similar teams, but I think Nebraska has the better talent. But I think a lot of it's going to hinge kind of like what we've seen in the last 2 games is if Jeff Sims shows up, or if we have somebody else that's starting at quarterback that because if Jeff Sims starts and he can fix the turnover things, then I think we have a good shot. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't start and there is this huge drop off between QB1 and QB2, then I'm nervous because just looking at the basic stats for just Northern Illinois right now, and this is just totals, you know, they've gotten, you know, in the last 2 games they've played, they've amassed, you know, an average of 349 yards per game to our 318. Now, granted, I'm guessing they probably didn't play Minnesota and Colorado like we did, which they might not have played the same caliber of teams. I didn't look exactly, but they have also only allowed 266 yards, meaning to me that their defense is probably not anything to just look over. And especially with our offense, I don't think any defense at this point is one that we can just kind of shy away from. So it'll be intriguing to see. To say that I'm not slightly nervous of how this game's going to go would be a lie, but I think Nebraska has the talent and the capability to absolutely take the win, especially being a home game, our home opener. And one thing I'm looking forward to, going back to the discussion of if it's Sims or if it's, you know, Harburg or whatever, it'll be nice because to me, if it's not Sims and he is actually hurt, then we have 2 games where we can get an idea of what we have for quarterbacks going forward. Because if Sims isn't the answer, but we have some raw talent at the quarterback at the 2 or 3 spot that can, you know, might need a bit of refinement, but can actually move the ball down the field and can run the game, be the game manager we need the quarterback to be, can meet the average, you know, the line to be an average quarterback. You don't have to be a superstar. Like, I know we've got Chubba Purdy, who's brother to Brock Purdy, but I'm not expecting Brock Purdy to, you know, to march out onto the field on Saturday if Sims doesn't play, much like I'm not expecting, you know, the next coming of Scott Frost for Nebraska to step out either in terms of quarterbacks. Just want to point that out. But I think it'll be nice because it'll be kind of those experimental type games where if Sims doesn't start, we have 2 games where we can actually test and see how good our quarterback room is and maybe have a chance to see if we have a better quarterback. I don't know. I think I'm just I would say I'm slightly nervous for the game because it's not like we haven't lost to a team that we should have beat before. So no game is a guarantee at any point, and this one certainly is not that. So I will pass it to you guys.
Yeah, like today it came out that Satterfield gave his weekly press conference, and they said that Sims didn't practice today. They're hoping that he'll practice tonight. Tonight as in being a Wednesday night practice. So we'll see if he is limited in practice, or like you said, Zach, if he's hurt by Saturday, we assume Harbaugh's going to start. Matt Rule said at the end of the Colorado game on Saturday that, Purdy was kind of dinged up that we didn't really know about, which is why I guess Harbaugh's the number 2 at this time. So an undisclosed, I guess, tweak, injury, whatever you want to call it, to Purdy. So we might see both quarterbacks. If Sims isn't ready to go, we might see both quarterbacks Saturday, kind of a package deal. I don't really know how I feel about that, but we need sample sizes of how both quarterbacks play in a actual competitive game and not garbage time either, like they've both played in the past. So, I guess we have seen Chuba in an actual competitive game, but it wasn't really good either. But yeah, I think all the questions we have right now that we need answers to are just, how is the offense going to look? How are they going to come out Saturday? Are they going to, come out? Is things going to be fixed with Sims? Are we going to see kind of they're still conservative running the ball, ground and pound game that they should just stick to if we're not going to be able to throw the ball? But right now, I think unless the defense gives us any little qualms or worries, we just have all of our worries are about the offense right now. And I think that's what these next 2 games are going to have to be tune-ups and ramp-ups for them, because Michigan is looming. I don't know what's at home, but you got to be at least somewhat competitive and know what you're doing by then before Michigan comes into town, because they're playing cupcakes until they play us, and we are probably just a cupcake to them too, and rightfully so. We haven't really proved anything that shows that we aren't just a pushover team for everybody else. We're just another speed bump in their quest to, an undefeated season for Michigan, or whatever other team we want to throw in there. So that's what I hope to see, is just some competent offense, just, being able to move the ball up and down the field, sustain drives. Don't get your defense back out there after, going 3 and out, or over a turnover after you get the ball back or something like that. It's just those little momentum shifts that just over time, as you get the third, fourth quarters where you need to win the games, is they can take a toll on your defense. And as we saw in Colorado, it's second half just takes a toll after you play your hearts out and you see that your offense isn't doing much. And that hurts the psyche of that defense. I don't know how long they're going to be able to sustain that going forward. If the offense is doing what it's doing, is your defense just might break immediately just because their mental will is just gone, knowing that they're going out there to play and just try to play a game because they know their offense isn't going to score points. So that is what I want to see going forward on Saturday, is how's the offense going to look? Is the things that Rule preaches about, what Satterfield preaches about on fixing and working in practice, can we at least see some sort of progress? We're not, as much as we want to say a snap of finger, like everything's going to be fixed by Saturday. Reality, that's not going to be. So like you had said, Zach, can we see that 1% game to game progress that we need to see from this team and this program? Are we going to be able to see that? I think defensive wise, yes, we could start to say that we are seeing that progress, and, credit to Tony White as a coach as well. But, the offense is going backwards on that 1% scale. So are we going to be able to see that progress game to game now, and start increasing that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% progress of improvement on the offense? And these are what these next 2 games at home are going to have to be about for Nebraska to really find out when Michigan comes into town, of who this team is going to be against a really, really good opponent. And like you had mentioned before, Zach, you got your next 7 out of your 10 games at home now, which is huge for Matt Rule trying to instill what he wants to be as a Big Ten program now. But yeah, with that, we'll pass it to Nate and just what we want to see for Saturday.
Yeah, I think for what I want to see on Saturday, I think I agree. I mean, offense, you want to see them limiting the turnovers, as I mentioned, winning time possession, just kind of moving the ball, spreading the ball around, being efficient. But as you mentioned, Eddie, it's not going to be a 1 week fix where we snap the fingers and everything's going to be hunky dory. I think Northern Illinois is going to be an interesting test for us. I don't think they're necessarily going to be a pushover team for us. So I think that'll be interesting to see how we come out. It is a night game, though, and I think that's going to help things. I'm hoping we just come out with some intensity. It's been a brutal 2-game stretch, and hopefully we can come out there with kind of the same intensity that we have had for those first 2 games. Despite what those outcomes are, we just gotta have that mental note that it's this is the start of our season, and just got to come out there and play our best football. And so just not seeing any sort of hangover is kind of a big thing on my end, I think, and just keeping up the intensity. Defense needs to step up, ball out. As you mentioned, Zach, Northern Illinois has been averaging 390 or so yards game.
Mm-hmm.
So
349.
349. Okay. Yeah, still holding to under 300 at the least. I think would be a good starting point. I think their quarterback used to play for Michigan State. He's got 400 some passing yards on the season, and he's not going to be anything to just kind of turn your nose up at. So hopefully we can dial up the pressure, make him uncomfortable, force him into situations that where we can hopefully capitalize on some turnovers on our end. So I think that's kind of my keys to the game here. It'll be, like I said, it'll be an interesting one. It'll be a good litmus test to see really where we're at. Again, Northern Illinois is not a powerhouse, but I can't really say that we are at this point either. So we just got to really take those baby steps and just kind of build on things moving forward. As you mentioned, Andy, it'll be good tune-up opportunities next 2 games. Just tweak what needs to be tweaked, make those 1%, make those incremental changes, and hopefully we can at least show up against Michigan in a few weeks here. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to you guys for any additional.
I wish we could just say non-conference games were nothing to worry about, but if the past 5-6 years have shown that we have every single right to be worried about a non-conference opponent coming in here and beating us, because it has happened way more often than it should. And that's just, they did it back to us in 2017, so it's something that, you can't take any non-conference game lightly anymore until we start proving that we can go out on these games and shell them 56-0 or something like that. It hasn't happened in a while, and don't know when that's going to start happening unless it happens these next 2 games. But speaking of a little side note of the whole Michigan State thing, that whole game got a little bit more intriguing over the light events over this past week that happened with Mel Tucker. So that, again, I don't even know what I was thinking of that game now, but I'm definitely now more intrigued of how that is going to play out now that the whole Mel Tucker situation is happening with Michigan State, and that game just got a lot more intriguing for Nebraska when we have to go up there November or late November, 4th. October, November time. So that'll be a very intriguing just to see, because I think Mark D'Antonio is coming back to help a little bit, which don't need any more memories of that, but that's going to be a very intriguing thing, especially if he's suspended without pay right now. But if they do eventually fire Mel Tucker, I mean, it's kind of like what Northwestern is. Their players have a free 30 days open in the portal if they want to enter it. So if you're Nebraska, you might just look into there, see if there's any offensive weapons that want to come over.
Namely a quarterback.
Yeah. If you have a competent quarterback, we'll gladly take you too. So,
Yeah.
but that's just a side note, but that's what I just wanted to throw out there too. But we can start getting into some predictions here. And I don't know if any of you two are ready or if you just want me to.
I'll
start
fall on the
wrapping
sword
up.
first.
Yeah.
I'll fall on the sword first. But I guess one thing, just before we go too far into predictions, I guess something that I thought of that I just thought would be a good key for me to the game this weekend is two things. Just keep
Win.
Well, yes, but two or three basic things is keep a short memory. Like, yes, we lost, but it's time to worry about Northern Illinois now. But also take care of the things you can, because like we've obviously, I think we have a good package in our football team, but with the turnovers that we keep seeing, we're not going to ever really get anywhere. So we need to clean that up. So take care of the mental mistakes, the mistakes like that, and then. I'm going to keep saying it until I see him do it fully. But just like Rule says, just go out and play football, because at the end of the day, we're doing this podcast. It is just a game, but, just take care of what you can take care of. And I think we'll see some good success. It's a slow build. And we knew that with getting Rule, it was going to be a long and slow process, but we were hoping to be a little quicker. But with that, go ahead.
I think that is like the biggest thing right now is a lot of the fan base is just so disheartened that we're seeing exactly what we have the past 5 to 6 years. And I get it. Like we're obviously all frustrated. None of this, especially how you look at how Dion has done it. We're not the same. They are two completely different coaches, two completely different programs. And yes, I would love to have Rule come in here, snap his fingers, and we're 2-0 like Colorado. But it's not going to be the same. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to duplicate what Dion is doing right now in a college football program, because it is pretty unique and pretty special of what he's doing. It's kind of like the NFL is, it's hard to copycat NFL blueprint teams because it's so unique to that team and how they're doing it and per coach. So I get it's frustrating. Like we're all very frustrated at how this has gone so far, but I think, he keep going back to the saying is, I don't want to wait till year 3 for things to be fixed, but you hire Matt Rule for year 3. And right now that's kind of the trajectory and trend that we're going. And yeah, that kind of sucks, but it's something that you have to sadly, I don't want to say sadly accept, but it's something that is a hard truth to accept right now is, yes, this is going to take time. This is going to be frustrating, and it's going to be not a very long process. I hope it's not a very long process, but reality-wise, it's going to be a long, tough road that we just have to hopefully accept as fans that I think this is the right guy. I mean, we all thought Scott was the right guy, but there was a lot of red flags with Scott too. And so far, we're starting to see just maybe a little inkling of a couple of Rule's first mistakes of at least choosing who he wants to be on his staff and as quarterback. But if he says he's able to fix it like he's able to fix it, then, we have nothing else but to trust him right now and just kind of see how the process goes. And that's what these next 2 games are probably going to show for the rest of the season is how is he able to get these things fixed and turned around now.
That's the other thing, though, too. These have been 2 games, Colorado and Nebraska. And for that matter, most of the teams that we've seen, I mean, just look at Alabama this last weekend. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that we're on the level of Alabama, but nobody's really shown their hand.
What?
Yet. Yeah, crazy. Nobody's really shown their hand yet, and Nebraska could turn it around. We might win these next 2 games, and we might see, us take off. I'm not going to say we're going to go and beat Michigan, but we might see a team out of the next 2 games if we win them that is a completely different team, and it just took knocking some rust off. Much like we could see Colorado win the last 2 games they have, and they might go 2-10. Everybody's like, oh, they're a better team than 1-11 this year. Okay, but that doesn't mean they can't go 2-10 either. So there's a lot of up in the airs, and there's a lot of season left. Unfortunately, we just have to wait and see what the results are and kind of live with them as they come. But anyway, off, good old tangents that we're so good at. Luckily, it gave us time to think about our predictions, so hopefully you guys are ready. But I'll start, and I'll fall on the sword. I think Nebraska is going to rebound. I do think Nebraska has the better team. I know I said that already. I think Nebraska's got a little bit more talent. Their defense, I think, will show up. It is a home game. That's going to be huge, so they don't have to travel. The thing for me, I think, is, can the offense show up? Can they maintain a good offensive game plan rather than turning the ball over 400 times? So with that, I think there's a lot of good things that Nebraska's done that they'll finally, being at home, they'll be able to kind of rein some of that in and, get themselves under control. And I know this is going to be a wild score, but I think I can see it happening. No, not scoregami necessarily. I don't think. But I think it's going to be a lot higher of a score than people anticipate. But I am going to say Nebraska wins 35-24.
Okay. I will just go. I think the defense and or special teams gets a score this weekend. I think they finally are able to get one of those turnovers, get one of those takeaways, and either take it back to the house where the special teams gets a return taken back to the house. I do think one of them does come up with a touchdown of sorts this weekend. So it's always so different playing under the lights at Memorial Stadium, especially it'll be a first home game for a lot of these players, for Rule, the staff. Just that energy being at home, it's unless the same turnovers a quarter keep happening, but it's something is different about playing at home under the lights. So that's kind of like my first take, is I do think the defense or special teams does get some sort of a point touchdown score this weekend. Offensive wise, yes, I do think Nebraska finally figures out that running the ball is going to be their best friend, and they figure out how to do it well this game. Unless Harbaugh plays, then my point is completely out of context. Then they'll probably pass the ball more. So I guess it goes both ways, whether which quarterback is playing. But I'm gonna go 34-17 Nebraska. I think they cover the spread. I think the over/under is like 48.5. The spread is kind of 10.5 to 11.5, depending on which book you look at. But
according to ESPN, the over/under is 43, and they have us at 11.5 as a favorite. So, granted, it's different. It's different probably in each book, but
I think Nebraska covers. Maybe the under will hit too. I don't know, but we'll see. My score doesn't definitely indicate that, but we'll see.
That's why you said maybe.
Yeah.
See, I'm going to deviate a bit from you guys. I think this is going to be one of those weird smash mouth Big Ten games. Slow, low scoring. Probably, if Jeff Sims is playing, could be some turnovers. And I think it's going to be one of those weirdo ball games. I think Nebraska comes out on top, but I think it's going to be just a slug of a game. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Nebraska can come out and just kind of blitz them, and it'll be over by the second quarter. But
and that'd be nice.
I worry about Nebraska at 11.5 right now being favored. That just seems a little high to me. But
it 100% seems high, but I'm gonna hammer it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen enough from the offense that they can move the ball and score the ball or score points enough. And I trust our defense to keep Northern Illinois down for the most part, but they haven't really shown that they can score on that side of the ball either. So I'm going to go with, I think, 17-10 Nebraska. Low scoring, close game.
Ooh, boys. We're all picking them to win.
Which surely means nothing bad will happen, right?
I mean, I don't necessarily
surely
believe in
can't
Omen.
mean that.
I don't necessarily believe in omens, but if I were to, that might be one.
Surely nothing bad will happen.
All right. Well, obviously we've got a couple more things here, but I guess as we wrap up, any last minute thoughts from anybody before we go into the final few bits and pieces here?
I'm sad. Still be sad until we start winning. Doesn't mean I'll stop rooting for Nebraska, but
Correct.
it's disheartening, but it's always go Big Red, regardless.
That's right. Win or lose, we still booze.
Yep.
As much as it hurts, you just gotta trust the process and trust that Rule knows what he's doing. Everyone makes mistakes, it's part of the human condition, but
I love trust the process, but I think the
from
76ers have ruined that for me because that is all they have done. It has never worked, which is why I'm always skeptical. It's like, I want to say it, but Embiid and the 76ers want to do it, but it never works.
Just go on the other side of it and just drink the Roulade. Drink the Roulade over and over again. All right. Well, as we come to the conclusion of episode 3, obviously we have to talk about our Fire into the Sun award winner this week. And
who could it be?
I don't know if anybody's going to be shocked by this, and we can obviously all go around the horn if we want, but I think we are all in collective agreement that I think it's going to have to be Jeff Sims this week.
Yep.
Sorry,
I
buddy.
don't think there's a debate.
The one piece of our offense that we need to be, like we said, even average, just average, I think is not meeting the mark, and so put him in a shuttle and fire him into the sun. Hopefully he's back by Saturday. Congratulations to Jeff Sims on the firing into the sun. All right.
Congratulations on a fire into the sun.
Light a fire under him or something, I guess. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. It's a positive award.
Oh, so okay, it's a positive award.
We're trying to light a fire under the players that get it. Unfortunately, Anthony Grant didn't get a chance to show anything this last weekend.
Fortunately.
Yeah, or fortunately.
It's not like he could have done much else worse. I mean, I think I don't think we had to worry too much about it. But moving on then to the new edition of trivia. We finally had a winner for last week, and I'll say the last 2 weeks because this person reached out to us and said, I tried to fill out the form, but had a couple questions. So for a reminder, for if you're wanting to fill out the trivia, which would be great, because now that we've got one response, we'd like to have some more. If you want to do that, there will be, if you watch on YouTube, in the description, there's a link to lead you to the form when you listen to this. If you listen on Spotify or any different of the streaming services, I believe in the description of there too. If you might have to click the little more to show the whole thing, but there's a link in there. Otherwise you can go to I think it's called a link tree that has the submit your answers here. So if you have any questions and you personally know us, you can reach out to us or you can send us an email, which I have here on our YouTube channel, as well as in the descriptions everywhere else. The winner for last 2 weeks, which was the Matt Rule question of where did he play, what years did he play, as well as last week's question, which was the Colorado Nebraska the record between the two, and then the
largest victory between that meeting.
Yep. So for the first week, the answer was Matt Rule played at Penn State. He was a linebacker, and he played in, I think it was 94 to 97. So there is that. And then for this week, the answers were the record between the two teams was 49-20 and 2 ties favored for Nebraska. Well, I guess that's technically changed now.
Well, this was before the game happened.
This was before the game, so this is before
the answer was
happened.
Before the game.
So 49, 20, and 2 favoring Nebraska. And then the largest margin of victory was how much?
Oh, what did we write down
Nebraska by
there?
52, I believe.
Was it 59-0? I think it was
That was
52. Okay, well, either way.
Our winner for both weeks was Chris Haroon. So he has I'll have to go and divvy up the points, but he is so far in the lead with the points. So if you want to win whatever the prize, which we still haven't figured out yet,
we will determine it later.
You'll get a prize from us if you do the trivia, and then based on the points that you get throughout the year. Unfortunately, you're starting now behind Chris. So because the last 2 weeks are now off. So now we're starting clean. Chris has the points. So, and then for this week, the trivia question is, who was the quarterback when Nebraska last played Northern Illinois? That's for 1 point. And then the bonus, what was the score of the game in that last meeting? So who was the quarterback the last time Nebraska played Northern Illinois? And then the bonus question, what was the score of that game? So, like I said before, all in the descriptions of wherever you listen or watch the podcast. There's a link in there to take you to the form. Otherwise, you can email us via the Nebraskabilities@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us personally if you know us and give us your answers, and we'll submit that for you. All right. Anything else from anybody that we didn't touch on?
Football is dumb. That's all.
Football is, hey man,
My favorite teams always hurt me, so why do I care?
Football is back though. So, all right. Well, with that, obviously, we'll leave you with, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening to us. And as always, if it's a possibility, it's certainly a Nebraskability.